There comes a time in every older horse's life when we, as their caretakers and stewards, are faced with this decision of whether it's time to retire them or to slow down their work. And this can be a really difficult decision. I'm going to give you in this video some ideas about how you might know when it's time for that, as well as kind of some considerations and things to think about to make sure that your horse still has a sense of purpose and that you can continue to bond with your horse and continue to have a great relationship into their older years. Welcome back. My name is Ruby. If you're new here, I help horses and humans be the healthiest that they can be, and for this entire month of September, we're talking mainly about senior horses, which is a topic near and dear to my heart as somebody who's had a lot of senior horses and continues to have a lot of senior horses. Sorry about the cats in the background. This video is coming a little bit late because this week just everything got derailed. My baby got sick, I got sick, my dog is sick, like we're just all kind of all over the place, but better late than never. Here it is. And I just still wanted to make sure this got out there because I think this is a really important topic to consider and think about. So when your horse is getting older and maybe you notice that they're kind of slowing down, maybe they're less inspired by their work, or they take a little longer to warm up, or sometimes just something physical changes, and it can be even kind of sudden and overnight, unexpectedly sometimes. But when those things happen, those tend to be our indicators that it's time to start thinking about slowing down, maybe looking at retirement, or maybe just changing their line of work. So the trickiest thing here is that this really is a case-by-case situation, and there is no one-size-fits-all or prescriptive method I can tell you to know if it's time. This is really a decision between you, your trainer, your vet, and your horse. And you'll be the only one that will know the answer. But some kind of options, because I think sometimes, especially if we're really attached to our horses, we tend to kind of go to like worst case scenario. And it doesn't have to be that way. So some kind of options could be just a modification to the type of work that they're doing. So if your horse, like I used to have a horse that was a former A-circuit jumper and had so much success in that field and was really thriving there, but as his body got a little bit more tired and he started to get older and he couldn't keep up there, he found a second career as a school horse, and he did an amazing job teaching riding lessons right up until he passed away, actually. And we had to continue to modify the type of lessons he would teach. When I first took him on, he was teaching walk, trot, canter lessons with some pole work. And the person that had him prior to me was using him to actually teach low-level jump lessons, but when he was no longer able to do the low-level jumps, he came to me as a walk, trot, canter horse, still doing some pole work. And over the time that I had him, he slowly became more of just a walk-trot horse as canter became less comfortable for him. And then as he kind of started to get more and more uncomfortable, then he became just sort of my very beginner walk lesson horse. He was so safe, such a good brain, but just, wasn't able to keep up as well physically anymore. And so there's kind of this like tiered retirement situation where instead of just like taking a horse and sending them out to pasture, we can actually kind of modify their life and their lifestyle and find something that maybe still gives them a sense of purpose without having to put the strain on their body. The other option, especially if your horse has some kind of physical ailment that really is preventing them from doing anything at all, would be full riding retirement, which can be really hard for those of us that really, the cats are always loud when I'm making videos. It can be really difficult for those of us that are so attached to riding our horses when they can no longer be ridden. But it's something to kind of think about anyway. And so some options here. Some people really believe that the most humane thing is just to put your horse down in that situation, especially if you know that they're just going to be miserable if they find so much of their personal enjoyment out of being ridden. And that's something only you will know the answer to. I personally have a hard time with that decision because I feel like horses are valuable for so much more than just riding. But that really comes down to you and your vet making that decision. The second option is to turn your horse out in a pasture or group board situation where they can live with other horses and they can find a sense of purpose through their herd dynamic and their herd structure. That can be really fulfilling for a lot of horses and can be a really viable option that can keep a horse really happy for many, many years. And then a final option could be just that you just maybe change your relationship with your horse. Maybe you do more groundwork, you take them for long walks, they have nice turnouts every day, spend extra time grooming them. These kinds of activities can still keep you nicely bonded with your horse, but remove the riding option. Another factor that's really important to consider, however, is finances. An older horse tends to be just as expensive, if not more sometimes, as their younger counterparts. And so really thinking through if you can afford the medical treatments going forward, or if you can afford to pay the board going forward, are really important considerations that you need to be thinking about, and kind of have a backup plan if something changes, especially if you are going to want to continue to ride at the level that your horse was at before. It might be time to look for another home for your horse, or consider other options in that realm. There are people out there that sometimes just want a companion horse for maybe another senior horse or a tired horse that lives maybe at their house in a pasture. So sometimes you can find a home even for an unrideable horse. It's usually just a giveaway kind of situation, so don't expect to be selling your horse. But these are all kinds of things that you can kind of look at to see if there's an alternative to whatever doomsday plan is popping up in your head. The last thing I want to touch on here, and this really could be a whole video in and of itself, and actually on the Whole Scoop we have an entire podcast episode all about this, but I want to differentiate a little bit this idea of kind of horses need jobs and horses need purpose. And, you know, there's a lot of controversy around this. People have really big opinions one way or the other. But I really believe that horses, just like all of us, need to have a sense of purpose. And they need to feel like they're contributing to something. They are social creatures. They want to have relationships with people and with other horses. And also, for so much of human history, we have bred and manipulated horses to be working animals for us. A lot of human history simply wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had horses working on our teams for transportation, for plowing land, for war, all kinds of things, right? And so our horses, I think most of them, there's always the exception, but I think most of our horses really do have pretty strong work ethic still. And I do think sometimes we conflate that sense of purpose with a job that serves us. And while some horses really do find their purpose in a job that serves us, some horses can really find their purpose in a herd dynamic, or through groundwork, or I don't know, all kinds of different things, through just packing kids around on the trail, or being a companion for another horse. So I had a horse that I had to retire one time pretty young. He was only about 13, but he had pretty progressed navicular, and so he had to be retired and was no longer rideable. But I found him actually a home where he was a companion horse for a blind horse, and he found so much purpose in that, and so much just satisfaction, and you could tell that he really continued to enjoy that work ethic, and that just daily he was needed. And I think horses, just like people, like to feel needed. So this is all something to think about. The cats are going wild in this video. I'm so sorry. Normally they're asleep right now. So these are all just sort of some things to think about when coming up with a plan for your unique horse in their retirement or their slowing down phase of life. And I hope this was really helpful. But if you're looking for even more support and more resources for caring for your older horse, check out the information below on my upcoming workshop. And if you have missed the workshop, if you're watching this in the future, you can still access the recording to the workshop in my membership. So all that information is always in the description below. Otherwise, I would so appreciate a like and subscribe. It really does help to spread this information and hopefully get this information into the hands of more horse people so that we can protect and help more horses. So until next time, I'll see you in the next video.